Freak the Mighty, Chapter 5, read aloud by Adam Ernest. Chapter 5, Spitting Image. There's a place I go inside my head sometimes. It's cool and dim in there and you float like a cloud. No, you are a cloud, the kind you see in the sky on a windy day. The way they keep changing shape, except you can't really see it changing. It's just sort of happens, and suddenly you realize the cloud that looks like a big hand with fat fingers, and that looks like a catcher's mitt or a big soft TV net. Like that, a TV set, like that, anyhow. I went there right after the fair. Gwen ran off with that look on her face, like what was he doing with my poor little boy, stowing him away in the wagon. What I do is lie on the floor under my bed where you can just barely see the bed springs and stuff because it's so dark, and before long I'm somewhere else, sort of floating, and it's so cool and empty in there. You don't have to think about anything. You're nothing. You're nobody. Nothing matters. You're not even there. Time out, except this time I can't stay as long as I'd like. Because Graham is knocking on the door, going, Maxwell, Max, are you there? Please answer me, dear. It's important. Yes, right. But I wedged right out from under the bed. There's getting to be less and less room under there, and I dust myself off and open the door. There's no lock, but Graham has this thing about waiting until I say come in. She makes a big deal about not intruding. Maxwell, she says, and she takes a little step inside the room, and you can tell she'd rather not be here. She makes that face because the place is dark and messy, and probably it smells like my socks or whatever. Max, dear, I'm sorry to bother you. You know I never came into the basement, but I just got a call from Gwen Avery, and I think it's important. I'm thinking not the fair Gwen is calling up my Graham, probably to report a great hulking beast that lives in the cellar, and I close up inside, waiting for the worst. She calls to say how sorry she was. Graham is saying, huh? I guess she came to pick up her little boy, is that right? You and Kevin were making friends. Making friends, what a wet idea that is, because Graham gets her feelings hurt pretty easy. So I don't actually say that. What I say is, yeah, I guess so. Graham is uneasy. I can see her eyes flitting nervously around the room. She looks like she's crossing the border into a really foreign country. This is as good as a place as any to mention that even though Grandma's my grandmother, she doesn't look like a granny. She looks more like a mother because she was all she always says, a mere child myself. When my real mother was born, I get the impression poor Gwen wasn't expecting to see you looking so big, and now she thinks she's offended you. Does that make any sense? I guess so. You know her, huh? Oh my, yes, said Graham. Gwen was a good friend of your mother's. They were both pregnant at the same time. Then later on, you and that little Kevin went to the same daycare. Did you know that? I give a shrug because I really don't like Graham to know how much I remember about way back then. Grandma's saying, she said she's especially wanted me to tell you this, Max. She said she's delighted that you and Kevin are going to be friends. That's the word she used, delighted, and she's inviting you to supper. First thing without thinking, I say, do I have to? Graham reaches out and she pulls her hand out on my shoulder, real light and feathery. You can feel how nervous she is just to touch me, and how it makes her feel uncomfortable to have to look up at me, because I did mention I'm a lot bigger than Graham. Bigger than Graham, bigger than Graham too. Bigger than most people, it's true. Graham says she feels bad about how she treated you, Maxwell, dear, and she wants to make it up to you. You don't... for it right to go. It's not a big deal, I said. She just ran, and all I said is I guess I scared her. It wasn't you, Graham says. No? Then who was it that who was it scared her. Now she's got her tongue stuck, and you can see her swallowing in her throat, like her mouth is dry. I'll just leave that to Gwen. She says she's quite remarkable young woman. You know, raising that poor boy all on your own. He's not a poor boy, I say. You should hear him talk. I think the rest of him is so small because his brain is so big. Yeah, said Grim. Well. Grim is always saying that, well, like it means something, which I guess it does to her anyhow. I agreed to have supper with Freak and her mom, even though the idea of it makes me feel tensed up, like there is a hand inside my stomach, and the hand is, making a fist. It turns out to be not so bad. The fair Gwen right away, she's beaming at me, bouncing around the kitchen and talking a mile a minute, so fast the words out of her mouth smooth together. Scary. Who would be offended? It's like this delay while I sort it out. And then I go, yeah, Graham told me, and that stuff about her knowing my father and thinking he was sick in the head. I decide no comment is the way to go. You were the cutest little baby, Gwen says. I remember like it was yesterday. We were all of us living all over the tenements in those days because the rent was so cheap and we were all just starting out. Freak is on the floor digging through the packing boxes for pots and pans and stuff. He's almost inside the box, and all you see is his funny little rear and sticking out. You think he was maybe 2 years old. That's how small he is. Until you notice where his legs brace makes a lump in his pants. From inside the box, he goes, "Hey Gwen, leave the guy alone, huh? You're going spastic, am I?" Gwen asked. She's at the counter going through drawers and looking for spoons or whatever. "Sorry, Max. I'm sorry. We get off on the wrong foot. It's just, Freak head pops out of the box and he goes, this wicked know-it-all grin. When she means is, you're a spitting image of your old man. Gwen says, "Kevin, please." And her voice is real small, like she's embarrassed. "Yeah," I say, "everybody says that." "They do?" I shrug. "It is really such a big deal for a boy to look like his father," which is typical butthead thinking, because of course it's a big deal. If your father happens to be in prison, which everybody in town knows about, it's not like there's any secret about what he did or why he's there, except everybody acts like it should be a secret, and the bigger I grow and the more I look like my old man, the worse it gets. "You really knew him?" I say. "I mean him and my mom when they were together." "Not very well," Gwen says. She's looking for a knife to slice open a pack of hot dogs. "I never saw much of your mom. After they got married, he made it difficult for your mother to have any friends. There's a knife on the table, and I pick it up and hand it to Fair Gwen. She doesn't flinch away, and I decide she's okay. She's really pretty cool." So Freak is saying, "When do we eat? My fuel cells are depleted. Supper is great. The fair Gwen makes this really tasty potato salad with spices and stuff way better than the mushy stuff Graham makes. And we have hot dogs fried in a pan with the buns toasted up butter crisp, just the way I like. And the 2 kinds of relish and 3 kinds of mustard and red onions cut up real small. We sit in the backyard eating from paper plates, and Freak tells robot stories that are so strange and funny. I'm laughing like a maniac, and then I'm choking, and Freak is pounding me on the back. "Expel the object," Freak shouts. "Regurgitate, you big moron." And he gives me another thump, and I cough up this yunky mess, but I'm still laughing so hard my nose is running. What a goon, except it really is funny. Me trying to sneeze a hot dog through my nose, and we're both laughing like total morons. "This is great," Gwen says, looking at Freak and me. "I'm so glad we decided to move back, I feel like we were getting a fresh start. It's time to go home." Graham gets nervous if I'm not back before dark. Everything seems really great, just like Gwen says, except when I lie down on my bed, it hits me, boom, and I'm crying like a baby. And the really weird thing is, I'm happy.